There's a great trouble in the land. We're gonna set it right again. There's a great trouble in the land. We're gonna set it right again. There's a great trouble in the land. We're gonna set it right again. We're gonna set it right again. Trouble's been brewing too many years. We're gonna set it right again. Trouble's been brewing too many years. We're gonna set it right again. Trouble's been brewing too many years. We're gonna set it right again. We're gonna set it right again. People need healing all over the world. We're gonna set it right again. People need healing all over the world. We're gonna set it right again. People need healing all over the world. We're gonna set it right again. We're gonna set it right again. We need clean water and healthy food. We're gonna set it right again. We need clean water and healthy food. We're gonna set it right again. We need clean water and healthy food. We're gonna set it right again. We're gonna set it right again. We must have housing, we've a right to thrive. We're gonna set it right again. We must have housing, we've a right to thrive. We're gonna set it right again. We must have housing, we've a right to thrive. We're gonna set it right again. We're gonna set it right again. There's a great trouble in the land. We're gonna set it right again. Oh, there's a great trouble in the land. We're gonna set it right again. There's a great trouble in the land. We're gonna set it right again. We're gonna set it right again. We're gonna set it right again. We're gonna set it right again.
Hello there. How are you? We're glad that you're here for our July welcome session. And we have a few housekeeping things that we like to do first. And I first like to acknowledge the land that I'm on. And I'm on the land of the Chumash in Santa Maria, California, in the Central Coast region. And if you know the land that you're on and you want to introduce yourself, please put that in the chat with your pronouns, your location, and just a little bit about what your pronouns, your location, and sharing your name. And closed captioning is now available. So if you want to have subtitles, you can click on that. Put questions and comments in the chat. Stay on mute unless speaking to the group I know we all want to talk, but we come here to learn and be in community. Okay, now we're going to have a presentation about what the Poor People's Campaign is about. But following that, we are going to have a wonderful time of breakout rooms. And after the presentation, we will be going into breakout group rooms to introduce ourselves and share reflections. Please rename yourself with the initials of your region. For example, AL equals at large, BA Oakland Bay Area, CC Central Coast, IE Inland Empire, Los Angeles, Orange County, LA, Orange County is OC, NE Northeast San Fernando Valley, SD San Diego, and ST Sacramento. So
And those are in the chat.
And those are in the chat. Thank you, Rowan, for being wonderfully helpful to me, because this is my first time being an MC, and and I'm enjoying it. All right, now let's take it away for slide 1 for our presentation.
Good afternoon. This is Virginia, and I am delighted to welcome you here this afternoon. Talking about the organization of the Poor People's Campaign, an incredibly rich topic. We're going to talk about the national organization, its origins and philosophy, a little about state organizing, and then share about some recent local actions. For the most part, we will not read you the slides, maybe occasionally for emphasis, but we're going to talk about related information. And please let us know if you need more time to read this slide at any point.
So I'm Jeffrey, and I'm from the Bay Area, and we're talking about Dr. King. In 67 and 68, Martin Luther King and several other civil rights leaders, and quite frankly, a lot of people who were both at the march this year and who I know personally were there too. And they formed a campaign to lift and demand an end to the unjust economic conditions facing millions of people worldwide. And Dr. King emphasized the need for poor whites, Blacks, Latinos, Asians, and Native Americans to unite into a new and unsettling force. He asserted that the Poor People's Campaign would only be successful if the poor could come together across all the obstacles and barriers set up to divide, and if they could command the intention and resources being diverted because of the U.S. engagement in the Vietnam War. The image is a cartoon. Everybody's on the line. Anyway, the image is a cartoon by Bill Maudlin, which appeared in the Chicago Sun-Times in '68. Two men in suits are saying, "What worries me, Senator, is that they are getting into step as many poor people march by." Here are some clips of Dr. King explaining the campaign.
The last 2 months of his life, Dr. King faced the idea that civil rights alone could not solve the problem of poverty. He roamed the South, trying to gain support for Poor People's Campaign. Its goals: full employment, a guaranteed income, and decent housing for every American.
The campaign would recruit among all races, bring them to Washington, force the government to respond, a nonviolent army of the poor.
All working together to solve the problem of poverty. We are tired of working full-time jobs for part-time income, and we are tired. This is a reality. Now, when we come to Washington, We're coming to get our check. Very frankly, this is a search for an alternative to riot. The riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. All we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if a man doesn't have a job or an income, he has neither life nor liberty and the possibility for the pursuit of happiness. He merely exists.
Plans in Washington are deter us from going into this all-important movement around jobs and income and to bring out or dramatize the problem of poverty in our country. We are going on with our plans, and we are soliciting support from those who will support, those who will not. That's up to them. We feel that this is something we have to do. The nation needs it. The movement needs it. Above all, the poor people of our country need a dramatic movement to at least get over to this nation the needs that they have and the needs that the whole nation has in getting rid of poverty.
We are demanding an emergency program to provide employment for everyone in need of a job. Or, if a work program is impractical, a guaranteed annual income at levels that sustain life in decent circumstances.
You know, whenever Pharaoh wanted to prolong the period of slavery in Egypt, he had a favorite formula for doing it. What was that? He kept the slaves fighting among themselves. But whenever the slaves get together, something happens in Pharaoh's court, and he cannot hold the slaves in slavery. When the slaves get together, that's the beginning of getting out of slavery.
And it didn't cost the nation one penny to integrate lunch counters. It didn't cost the nation one penny to guarantee the right to vote. Now we are dealing with issues that cannot be solved without the nation spending billions of dollars and undergoing a radical redistribution of economic power. Yeah.
So the platform for the Poor People's Campaign in 1968, as a first step in building the power needed to achieve the goal of a radical redistribution of political and economic power, Dr. King, along with other leaders of the poor, such as Johnny Tillman of the National Welfare Rights Organization, helped work out the major elements of the platform for the Poor People's Campaign of 1968. In his last sermon, Dr. King said, "We are coming to Washington in a Poor People's Campaign. Yes, we are going to bring the tired, the poor, the huddled masses. We are coming to demand that the government address itself to the problem of poverty. We read one day, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if a man doesn't have a job, he has neither life nor liberty, nor the possibility for the pursuit of happiness. He merely exists. We are coming to ask America to be true to the huge promissory note that it signed years ago. And we are coming to engage in dramatic, nonviolent action to call attention to the gulf between promise and fulfillment to make the invisible visible."
Unfortunately, the unity and organization needed for the Poor People's Campaign of 1968 to complete all three of the planned stages and form the new and unsettling force capable of disrupting complacent national life and achieving an economic Bill of Rights was not easy to come by. The assassinations of Dr. King and Senator Robert Kennedy, a key proponent of the campaign and presidential candidate, served to cripple the campaign and greatly limit its impact. Our image is Hunger Wall, an art piece from the Resurrection City where residents wrote slogans.
So in the face of setbacks due to political violence and assassinations, as well as the difficulties of sustaining a national movement, the Poor People's Campaign of 1968 nevertheless had an impact not only on governmental policies, but also on public perceptions. The campaign pushed Congress and federal agencies to allocate millions for programs such as Head Start and education welfare services for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, while it also helped catalyze the desegregation of schools and extension of labor programs. Significantly, the campaign introduced new strategies for protest and social change. The movement also helped transform national discussions on race, class, economic opportunities, security, and democracy. This image description above is a period sign that says "Feed Folks."
Together we rise. We're uniting across color, creed, gender, age, sexual orientation, and geography in a moral fusion movement building on the radical legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On December 4th, 2017, the 50th anniversary of the announcement of the first Poor People's Campaign, a diverse leadership came together in Washington, D.C. to launch the new Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. Co-chaired by Dr. William J. Barber II of Repairers of the Breach and Reverend Dr. Liz Theoharis of the Kairos Center, with the support of many organizations, denominations, and individuals, and now in 45 states across the country. The campaign launched with two primary goals. First, to change the narrative by changing the narrator. That means putting more focus on who and why people are poor and amplifying the voices of those most impacted by the systemic forces that keep people in poverty. And second, to build power to change policy through a fusion movement that unites communities and partner organizations. Our image is of Bishop Barber and Reverend Theoharis wearing stoles that say Jesus was a poor man as they stand in front of a rose window. Thank you.
Part of grassroots organizing is to go out and listen and engage with people most affected by the policies that keep poor people down. The Poor People's Campaign has taken to bus tours to engage with their supporters and to form state organizing committees. The video we're about to show is a compilation of a few of the testimonies that the campaign collected during the various tours and actions, speaking to people impacted by the 5 interlocking injustices.
I worked 41 years in the coal mines. I have black lung, and it's just unfathomable what these poor coal miners have to go through in order to get what they have worked for and deserve.
I see poverty in my own community. You know, there's a 70% unemployment rate in the reservation right now.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I was raised poor. My only chance of going to college was joining the Army. We are demanding that we stop spending money on the war economy. We are demanding that we stop the war on our poor.
51% of New Yorkers are poor or low income. People are not poor because they're lazy and they don't want to work. People are poor because our government is depriving us of living wages, health care, and public assistance. That ain't right.
So I am a first-generation student, a food service worker, and a queer person who was born and raised in Knox County, Kentucky. I've at times balanced living in my car, working through jobs to pay for school and save for an apartment, and then doing the same balancing act to pay for various car repairs and rent once I found a place. I was used to watching my mom walk into the grocery store, or waiting to walk into the grocery store until it was cleared out so that people wouldn't notice we had SNAP. I grew up in a conservative and majority white town, consumed with that Christian nationalist outlook.
As an undocumented person, I just want to reiterate that the national emergency that is being put out there, it's not at the border. It's here, at our doorsteps. It's here when we have children that don't have quality air to breathe. It's here when we have parents like myself struggling to pay rent. It's here, and we need to make sure that people know that these 140 million people that are living in poverty today in the United States are rising up and saying no more.
Every one of our representatives here in West Virginia told us no. We're not going to consider policies for the poor, the underprivileged, the underprivileged, the suffering, our vets. No, we're not going to think about them before we make a policy decision.
In addition to individual anecdotal testimonies, the campaign is committed to having hard data to back up our demands. Here are some of the studies that have been created since 2018. And I don't know if you can see those. Moral Agenda and Declaration of Fundamental Rights, Poor People's Moral Budget, the Jubilee Policy Platform, Unleashing the Power of Poor and Low-Income Americans, Changing the Political Landscape, Waking the Sleeping Giant, a Poor People's Pandemic Report.
Okay, and the next slide that says we rise together. It has our principles. It says demand justice for all, champion leaders from poor communities and build unity, end unjust criminalization systems and develop a peace economy, pursue equal protection under the law with no compromise, refute claims of insufficient resources, reject systemic racism and white supremacy, cast aside the false moral narrative of religious nationalism, transform society through the power of the people, promote bottom-up change and local state activism, rise above partisanship, sustain moral direct action, embrace non-violence.
So this slide is the memorial service and wall that was held on June 17th at the Lincoln Memorial. And we put up our own wall to talk about the people who had lost their lives to COVID, to gun violence, to the interlocking injustices, and to war over the past year. And also, you got the opportunity yourself to put up people who you knew on the wall. So it was a very moving experience to be with maybe 500 people listening and working with this wall.
This slide is a peace illumination at the Martin Luther King Memorial. This also took place during the June 18th gathering. A coalition of peace groups came together on June 17th to 18th and had various activities around the Poor People's Campaign events. This June 17th illumination was a march from the memorial service to the Martin Luther King Memorial, where signs were arranged in various configurations. People found this particularly inspiring.
This is a picture of the march and mass gathering on June 18th. And as you can see, we marched down from 14th Street down Pennsylvania Avenue. And this is 3rd and Pennsylvania Avenue where the stage was. And there were tens of thousands of people who were there, plus a lot of people watching on TV, sharing their stories involving voting rights, the nation's failure to respond to COVID, especially among poor community, workplace rights, need for healthcare and living wages, and the day-to-day struggle of not having enough money to survive. This photo is by Steve Pavey and looking out.
On June 18th, there were 143 days between that day, the 18th, and the last day of the midterm elections on November 8th. I did the math, and there are 126 days from today to November 8th. On the ballot are 469 seats in Congress, 34 in the Senate, and 435 in the House. A movement that votes does not vote for any party or any one person. We vote for our people and for our lives. We vote to summon a third reconstruction that can birth us out of an impoverished democracy and usher us into a new world. The 14-point agenda of the third reconstruction includes demands for politics, policies, laws, and legislation center and prioritize the poor, a federal minimum wage of at least $15 an hour, expansion of voting rights and restoration of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, equitable and free testing, treating, vaccination, and care for COVID-19, and fair taxation on the ultra-rich corporations and Wall Street. The agenda also includes demands that Medicaid be expanded and Medicare be protected, end to homelessness, evictions, and foreclosures, that our government prioritize peace by reducing military spending by at least 10% now and redirecting those resources toward diplomacy, legislation, humanitarian aid, and the priorities in this agenda, and that the laws, legislation, policies, and budgets of this nation are based on the 5 key principles of the United States Constitution to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and for future generations.
This slide is about the world's 10 richest men who more than doubled their fortunes from $700 billion to $1.5 trillion at a rate of 15,000 per second or 1.3 billion a day during the first 2 years of the pandemic that has seen the income of 99% of humanity fall, and over 100 million people are in poverty. Inequality is contributing to the death of at least 21,000 people every day, or one person every 4 seconds. And you can really see what the difference is in that slide.
In 1967 and today, voting is important. Today, we have less voter freedom than we did after the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And yet, we, the people, must find a way to make the government find it wise and prudent to collaborate with us so that we can fulfill the promise of the Poor People's Campaign.
So besides having a national organization, there are 40 organizing committees in 40 states and volunteers in those states joining working groups and committees to plan and carry out local actions in support of the national goals.
Because the Poor People's Campaign is a joint project of Repairers of the Breach and the Kairos Center, the staff from those nonprofits manage the national campaign, coordinating events, policies, and other activities.
And this slide is the structure of the California Poor People's Campaign. Given California's size, we have also several regional steering committees, in addition to the state coordinating committee that talks directly to the national organization. They include Bay Area, Los Angeles, Inland Empire, Sacramento, Orange County, Northeast San Fernando Valley, and San Diego. They're working to launch a Central Coast region that will include 3 counties, Barbara, San Luis Obispo, and Ventura.
Our work is carried out by statewide and regional working groups. You can use the feedback form in the chat to get more information or to get connected to statewide or working groups in your region. In this inflection point, each working group is planning actions between now and the midterms. It's a great time to join us because you can help shape our work for years to come.
And this slide shows how you can join and connect to both the national, the California, and the Bay Area supporters of the Poor People's Campaign. And it has lots of social media engagement where you can follow along with what is happening. The working groups are where the real day-to-day work gets done. There are Bay Area and California working groups covering the following areas: access, art and theomusicology, benefits access, faith leaders, finance, legal, outreach and inclusion, policy, political education, or structure. This next slide will tell you how to donate.
We are raising money to send poor and low-wealth individuals to Washington, D.C. Yes, we will be going back. This link will allow you to direct your donation to the General Fund, the Travel Fund, or the Bail Fund for those arrested doing nonviolent civil disobedience.
So in this campaign, we say, forward together, and folks respond, not one step back. Will you chant with me? Forward together.
Not one step back.
So now we'll go into breakout groups. Those who have not renamed yourself with your region, please either do so or tell me in the chat what your region is, and I will rename you. That will allow me to set up breakout groups by region so you can talk with folks who are in your same general area.
Well, we're back. So how did that feel? Anybody want to say something?
Well, I thought it was great. We had a really good discussion about what the Poor People's Campaign does and how we can get involved in different ways to get involved.
Yeah, I'm going to toss it back to you for a little bit. What was the one thing that how people want to get involved? Is there what's the main thing that you found?
Well, people want to get active, and they want to get active from where they're coming from, and so the Poor People's Campaign has a way to get active in many ways. One lady was asking me about art and theomusicology, what that working group was all about. And I said that Virginia's the California director of that. And so she could really tell more about that, but there's just ways to get active. And I think one of the major ways is to get it onto the steering committee, which is meeting this for the Bay Area Steering Committee, it's meeting this Saturday, the 9th at 3 p.m. And so if people want to get involved in that, just to go and see what it's like to be on the committee. There's about, I'd say maybe 20 people who go to that on average. And it's a once a month planning committee, and where we talk about actions and things that we can do. So
I'm gonna pass it. Peg, were you in a group? Were you in the same group as Jeff?
It was an amazing group. We had Helen, who's like an accessibility giant in the world, wants to contribute. Then we had McGregor, who's, oh my God, all about how do we make a difference in other states and voting access, and just interested in Dolores Huerto, all these. I mean, just, it was such an incredible group of resources. And then Lori, who is a rabbi and a chaplain. So, you know, we said prophetic faith, you know, we just said sign up for things and then choose. And then Jim Beal, he's been working in addiction and criminality. And so anyway, it was a wondrous group of people. And we attempted to say, just sign up for something and then you'll sort it out as you go. But those of you who have more to say, please speak up. I'm really new.
Michelle, we haven't seen you in a while. Let's hear your voice.
I was just pretty much saying that too, as far as how I got involved. I came out to the welcome session, and then I started exploring with some of the working groups, and get plugged in wherever I can. But I guess one of the working groups I pretty much pointed out was the accessibility one for Helen, but I'm sure she's going to find other ones that she can do her thing. I don't know. We didn't really touch on the how you can get involved, you know, as upcoming things, you know, are getting ready to happen, as far as the 7 steps and all that, you know, that well, the big thing is for people to fill out the feedback form, and so that emails and what have you will get out to you, and then attend whatever working group sounds good for you. And the steering committee, just like Jeff was saying, that'd probably be a good place to begin. But like I said, just sit in all of the working groups that sounds good to you. And as far as feedback, as far as this session, I thought it went well. You guys also do, you know, an awesome job, you know. And what else I say, Virginia?
Anybody else have something to say they want to say?
You know, I'm brand new. I'm Wendy.
Yeah, hi, Wendy.
And I hear people say, you know, just plug into whatever group sounds interesting to you. I had no idea what that means. We saw so many things were shown to us today about steps, actions, groups. But if you've never done anything except go to the march in Washington, I need to find out how to get down to a local level. So any advice would be great. I'd be grateful for.
But the California PPC working groups are accessibility. Now that one is an important one for all of us. I don't care if you're able-bodied or not. We all are fighting accessibility issues of some kind. art and theomusicology. If you want to learn from a master musician, Virginia Hollins Davidson is excellent. She makes me, she sings so beautiful. I mean, it makes my heart sing. Basic needs. Basic needs talks about one of the things it talks about getting the people who need help and mutual aid help and assistance out to people. And it's a very important one that we've been on hiatus because of the mobilization. Benefits access, those are things like, how do people get SNAP? How do people do things? We had a whole COVID working page, and I don't know, I'll have to talk with Jim Pugh and David White and see if we still have that going on. Communications. Nancy Berlin could always use your help with communications and with the newsletter. Faith leaders. If you're a faith leader, we could use your help. Finance and fundraising. Oh my goodness, we are looking for a person who is, we're looking for a new treasurer because our treasurer Amanda is moving to New York City. So if you know of anybody who has any treasurer skills, we'd like to talk to you or talk to them. Legal policy, legal. Okay, legal. I'm not exactly sure what's all involved in that, but I have a feeling it has to do with, protecting our rights to, if we're being forced to be evicted, and there's a lot of other things that go along with that. Policy, political education. Oh my goodness. If you haven't seen anything yet until you've gone to this one and talked about our Jubilee policy platform. This gives you something that's going to tell you how we can be active and how we can pray with our feet. And speaker training and outreach. These are the people who brought you this wonderful event today. And we're in a transition mode where the speaker training working group is coalescing, bringing together the outreach working group. And so we can bring more of the Poor People's Campaign out into our communities. Did I do that okay, Rowan?
And probably the easiest place to get hooked into is your local steering committee first, but we'll be able to get you hooked into the right place if you fill out that feedback form.
And since we have a Bay Area Steering Committee meeting coming up this Saturday, it might be a good place to start. If you have time, you get reports from the committees and maybe get more of an idea of what each of them does. You might even have a chance to talk to some individuals who are involved in those. So
that's at 3 p.m. on Saturday on Zoom.
I see that Jim is a former state senator. I'm sure you have much experience that would be beneficial. Some of us have been standing with and really against our local county jail, where we've had many deaths, and we've had some vigils and participated in that. I'm sure you have much expertise and experience, along with each of you who were in our group and who are here today. Such a variety of backgrounds and expertise. We'd love to see more of you.
Jails are very expensive. State prison,
Yeah.
very expensive.
I'm for emptying them. Much better ways to treat people.
Yeah.
We should close them.
More schools, not jails.
Well, incarcerating people right now in California, prison is about 130,000 a year just to put somebody in jail right now. If they have mental health problems, of course, it's about 170, 160,000, something like that. So, and no money from the federal government. So if you take that money and use it for housing, mental health, social service care, supportive housing, you can actually use the money to double the amount of money because you can match the federal money for the health and human service federal dollars. So instead of 160,000, you'd have 320,000. And you'd be able to take care of like 20 people for every one person you put in a state prison, something like that. It's an amazing number. I mean, just the economics of it is absolutely, illogical to put people in prison. I mean, if you can keep them out of prison, put them into some housing with a lot of family support, other kinds of support, give them a job, have a jobs program, mental health, addiction.
That would reduce the recidivism too, right, Jim?
Well, I never knew a prison to be very therapeutic. Have you? Has anybody got any evidence of that? I don't. So there's a traumatizing experience. So if we put them in a more therapeutic environment with good supportive housing and counseling and find jobs and,
So may I ask a question? The information that you just shared is not new information. In terms of all the money we've wasted just in that area of incarceration. And yet we're gearing up for probably another round of it. Because
the state has $20 billion worth of rehabilitation cost coming for the 34 state prisons that we have. So they're going to spend $20 billion fixing up dilapidated prisons like Soledad, San Quentin. San Quentin, I think, is over $2 billion. So they're going to spend all this money, and that's on top of the money I talked about. I mean, it's the numbers are just phenomenal what criminal justice costs are right now.
So with that kind of money that you were just talking about, if I understood you, they're going to spend the money to prepare and continue the system as we have in place. Would that be accurate or inaccurate?
Pretty much it's accurate. I mean, they probably, I haven't seen the budget this year yet. I haven't looked at details, but I think they put money in to rehabilitate billions of dollars worth of rehabilitation costs for the state prisons. So they're already starting to rehabilitate the prisons. These prisons are basically falling apart. They overcrowd the prisons, they pack them with people, and what do you think is going to happen? It starts falling apart. So, you have to, fix them up. So, rather than fix them up, put people into, community-based housing and get them out of there. Give them therapeutic environments, reduce the recidivism, give them jobs, let them vote.
And what you're sharing is not new information yet, and yet politically, what you're talking about it does make a lot of sense, and yet you don't have the political will to do that. Is that what you're saying?
I say the Democrat Party has done a terrible job on promoting this issue. My whole career is based on this. I mean, this stuff is stuff we brought up in 15 years ago. I mean, starting 15 years ago and consistently since then. So it's all these things have been studied by academics, for ancient times, and, the idea of more incarceration is just
ludicrous.
If we do away with the laws like some people are proposing, prison and law enforcement's a business. I mean, a lot of people that want to just keep the business going. I mean, it's.
Wow. We could have, this could be a program all in itself. And since we are getting close to time.
There's an organization that addresses these issues. It's called All of Us or None.
Yes, right.
and it's an offshoot of legal services for parents with children.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Carol. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to see everyone here today. And I was surprised, you know, with it being the day after a holiday, you never know how attendance is, but this was great. Anyway, I'm going to close you out because you guys have had practice. We had practice before, but you guys are, but I think it's time to close out with a little bit of call and response. And I can do forward together.
Not one step back.
Forward together.
Not one step back.
Forward together.
Not one step back.
When we live from the bottom,
everybody rises.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in August. First
we'll
Tuesday
see
of the
you.
month.